Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Now this is one of those videos that I was going to shoot something else entirely today that was going to publish in 3 to 4 weeks, but because of our current situation where we're at, I thought I'd better hurry up and shoot this and get it out as soon as I can. So today is Wednesday, the day I'm shooting this, and I only really just realized like last night that because of the flooding in our area that we are currently an island, and I just checked to see how things were going, and yes, we are still currently an island. We are blocked off on either side of the highway because of all the flooding. Now for us personally, nothing really bad, and if you saw my community post I made, you would see that, you know, we've survived just fine, and all the big standing water from our property right here it's all gone. That's one thing about living in rain country, is the soils around here are used to that kind of heavy rain and can drain a lot quicker than other places that may be affected by the same amount of rainfall. Our other piece of property just up the road, because that one's right next to the creek, so that saw the worst of it. But here on our little neighborhood property, the worst of it was actually in the backyard over by out closest to the chicken coop, and the chicken coop did get flooded. And the funny thing is when I went out there to let them out, I had put on my waterproof boots, but they're only ankle high boots. I had no idea how deep it was because I'd only been looking out at the front yard, and you can see there's a lot of water there, but I could easily walk through that water in those same boots. So I thought it would be the same in the backyard. Well, I headed out to the chicken coop, and before I knew it, I was in water that was so deep it was going up over the top of my boots and filling up my boots, which was just super pleasant. Thankfully, it wasn't freezing water. And of course, when I got out to the coop, there was just standing water all around the coop, and I opened up the coop door, and sure enough, the whole inside of the coop was flooded, and the chickens were up on their roosts, not coming down. So I was nice enough to put a little feed in the nesting boxes so they could at least turn around on the roost and peck at the feed that way. But thankfully, later in the day, the water receded enough for the chickens to be able to come out, and they were fine. So that was the worst of it for us. But as far as the rest of our area, yeah, there's been people that have been stuck in their homes. Some people, I just found out this morning, had to have the Coast Guard come in and rescue them, in some places just a little bit outside of Forks where it flooded really bad. And, you know, I'm thankful we are where we are because of that at least we didn't have to see any of that. Though our neighbor next door did have several inches of water coming into his garage and had to get a sump pump to get it coming out. And we didn't have to deal with any of that. We did have water coming in under the house into the space underneath, but that's all fine. It didn't hurt anything. But here's some video clips that Patrick took from our other piece of property just up the road, and you can see how bad that really got. So I'll just let these clips play as I continue to talk about our area and just prepping in general and how important it is. And the surprising thing is, this is not the first time Forks has become an island. I know of, at least since I've lived in this area, one other time this happened, and it was quite a number of years ago. Thankfully by then we weren't necessarily into prepping, but I did like having food storage on hand just for the sake of buying in bulk, because it's cheaper to do it that way, and I don't have to go to the store as often. So that's when I first started buying in bulk, was to both to save money and prevent trips to the store. And so when that blizzard came through, which was a freak storm, because we don't get snow every winter, and when we do, it's usually just a few inches, and it might be gone in a day or 2 or 3 at the most. So that storm that came through, it was very odd, and of course it totally blocked us off, so no trucks were coming through to bring in groceries. Obviously nothing was going out, and so the shelves at the store were running bare of the most necessary essentials, of course. And you would think after that happened that more people in our area would be better prepared for such things. But unfortunately, when something like that happens, people think, oh, that'll never happen again. That's like lightning doesn't strike in the same place twice. Well, you know what? It does. It's just a different bolt of lightning. It can and it does. So this time, instead of it being a blizzard, it was flooding that we always thought we could handle, because again, this isn't the first time we've had such heavy rains and seen all of our areas flooded and they had to close down school. But I think this is this is much worse in the fact that last time that happened, it didn't make us an island as far as the heavy rains and the flooding and the closing of the school. This time it did. So that just right there proves either just because it's never happened doesn't mean it never will, and just because it's happened once doesn't mean it won't happen again, either in the same way or in a different way. So this brings us back to the importance of being prepared and why we do what we do and why we've been sharing this information more publicly for the past 5 years. Though we've been doing this for much longer than that, I really felt compelled to start my channel. Initially, it was just so I could show people how I do things, how I make certain things, be it vinegar or certain recipes that I just have in my head that are my own recipes, and I throw them together and I don't have them written down and everybody's demanding recipes. But as my channel started growing, I really felt compelled to start putting videos out more on being prepared. I was a little nervous about it at first, especially because of back then, especially the bad name that preppers had due to certain programs that were being put out that always painted people that were more into being prepared for whatever life throws our way as crazy. And a lot of those people, I think if you're to sit down and talk to them, were a lot more reasonable than the way they were painted, because they wanted you to pick some extreme situation to talk about, where most of us who do what we do it because of situations just like this, because you just never know. It's not that we necessarily believe there's going to be a polar shift. Most of us rarely are even thinking about that. We're thinking about the more close to home stuff, even if it's something as very personal as a job loss that puts you in a tight situation, so you have to fall back on your food stores, and the fact that you've been paying ahead on certain bills, so now you don't have to get behind on them as you search for a new job or get yourself in a better financial position, and then you just rebuild again from there. And that's most common right there. Or situations like this that come out of nowhere that are least expected. Each time these situations happen, I always hope and pray that people will see that and realize why we keep talking the way we do, why we keep sharing this information. And then obviously when 2020 came, it's kind of funny if you go back and watch some of our videos really early in 2020, like in January, before we even knew what was happening. And we were doing a series on tough topics for discussion, which I think is about a 5-part series. And if you're interested in that, I'll link to it down below. But in one of those videos, it might have been the first one, we had just heard about some virus that people were starting to freak out about it. We didn't even know what the name of it was then. And the first case had been reported in Washington State. And I was just, no big deal. But obviously, at least in the way it affected us all, it turned out to be something much bigger than we had expected even then. And I was hoping then, as people were rushing to the store to buy up all the toilet paper and then nobody could get toilet paper, that at least that would wake up some friends and family that had kind of laughed at us before. And some did. Some did, I will say that, and I thank the Lord for that, but some did not. Some just looked at it, oh, well, lightning only strikes once. What really gets me is some of these people live in places like really close to a currently inactive volcano, for example, and because that volcano hasn't gone off in however many years, it's never going to happen. And so I'm always surprised that even people that even live in places like that, or people that live in places like here, not just that we've become an island before, but they've been warning us for a very long time, they being geologists and so on, that we're due to have a huge earthquake anytime. It could happen anytime. We just don't know when that is. But yet people just blow it off. They don't care. They think it'll never happen in their lifetime. But even so, even if that never happens in our lifetime, there are always things that happen all the time. And you see it all over just our own country and all over the world. The flooding, the contaminated water supplies. So nobody has consumable water, and if they can get any water, they have to boil it. And there's always these rushes on the stores, and the shelves are bare. And then what are the poor, unprepared people that didn't put up water and food? What are they going to do? We've had hurricanes that came out of nowhere that left people in some pretty dire situations. And obviously we know that even the most prepared person, there's certain kinds of catastrophes that can happen that might take out all your preps as well. This is why it's always good to have a backup plan for that too. In this case, we were totally safe here. We were safer here than we would have been at our other piece of property that pretty much totally got flooded. Even the upper area that was higher away from the creek got full of water, and then that water was flooding down to the lower area, and the creek, I'd never seen it, it was actually level to that lower land. When normally you walk down several feet to get to the creek, now it's level with the lower section of our property. So that's just crazy. I don't think it is today. I think Patrick went out there yesterday and looked at it, but the day before when he went out there and caught those video clips, it was crazy. But anyway, those are the things you got to be thinking about. And so this video is really twofold. One was just to let people know how we're doing, kind of what's going on around here. And we don't keep up a lot on local news, and that's why I was kind of dumb to some of the stuff that's going on, because we're always just so busy doing other things and taking care of what's happening in our own little private world right here. So I was a little surprised when I found out that we had yet again become an island. So I wanted to share with you that we're fine. But also use this as another teaching opportunity to remind people of the importance of being prepared for whatever life throws your way. It's not crazy to be prepared. It's actually crazy to not be prepared, because you never know what is going to strike next. Yeah, there's a chance that nothing bad may ever happen and you'll just breeze through life and never need your preps. But you know what? It was an insurance policy that you can still work through. If some people make the mistake of putting stuff up for doomsday rather than learning how to work through that stuff now, and then they just let that stuff go to waste. So it doesn't have to be a waste of money to prepare for such things. Learn how to work through it and make the most of what you have, and then just keep restocking. That's what we do. That's what people used to do a long time ago, before they became dependent on the local supermarket and just-in-time delivery. So then they just started going to the store every single day to buy their groceries, rather than at least being prepared for a week or a month or longer. So it's very important that people understand this. It does not have to be a huge major catastrophe. It can be anything that will affect you personally, and we have been there, where our own personal little household was affected by calamity. Being mostly debt-free at that time, we're completely debt-free now, but we were, at that time that one calamity hit that just hit us, we were only in debt to the house, thankfully. And we had also been making big payments on the house by that point already, and we had a savings account built up. If it hadn't have been for those things, we probably could have lost everything during that time. But as Christians, we also believe that God sees us through, and He has seen us through many hard times, but we also can't use our faith as a crutch to not be ready, because God called Noah to be prepared. He called Joseph to be prepared. So if God is calling you to be prepared and you're ignoring it, God didn't go down there and build the ark. He told Noah to build the ark. That's just an example that I'm throwing out for the sake of the Christians that want to say, oh, well, I have my faith and that's good enough. Well, are you sure about that? Wouldn't it just be better to take that money you might want to spend on a fancy new house or a fancy new car or some other fancy new toy, and just put a little bit away just in case? Just in case, because I believe that God wants us to be diligent and use the resources He's given us to be able to take care of our family. Because here's a verse right here. I never can remember it word for word directly, but I'm going to put it right here, that, he who does not take care of his own household is worse than an infidel. So worse than someone who is unfaithful. So take that into consideration, and at least consider the needs of your own family, if not your own personal needs. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please share with us down below your own personal experiences. What are some situations that you've been put in that really made you see the importance of preparing, whether it be whatever it was that was the catalyst to get you going, or situations that you've had to fall back on your preps and how that really saved you, being responsible enough to look out for your own future rather than just blowing your money on stuff you didn't need. And don't forget to read the comments down below, because we can learn so much from each other, and it also really helps us all when we can be able to see other people's real life stories, and it just gives us more validation as to why we do what we do, and it is encouraging. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.